Thank you all so very much for joining us here today. My name is Andrew, and I'm the enrollment coordinator here at the Center for Professional Education. And I want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us today for leadership versus authority. How to lead when you aren't in charge. So today, who we are the Center for Professional Education here at the University of Texas at Austin. We offer non-credit educational programs that help individuals meet their personal and professional goals. Moreover, we help organizations develop employees and improve team performance. So again, thank you all so very much for joining us here today. Today's speaker is none other than longtime Center for Professional Education instructor, Lindsay Chamberlain. Lindsay has over 20 years of experience in a variety of industries, combining her practical knowledge of management, project leadership, and adult learning to develop and present programs that meet the diverse training needs of today's business environment. From working with corporate and government clients to teaching popular CPE classes like Managing Without Authority and Assertiveness Skills for managers, Lindsay has used her expertise to provide support for organizations and professional development for those who want to learn new skills and be successful in their careers. So, without further ado, Lindsay, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate that, and welcome everybody to our seminar today. I'm really looking forward to talking with you about leading without authority. I'm just going to kind of flip over here to our agenda. Whoops, I went in the wrong direction. My apologies. Whoops. Hopefully that won't happen too many times as we go through today. But today what we're going to be really looking at, as discussed by Andrew in our title, is being able to lead or manage a group, a project, what have you, without given or what we call legitimate authority. So that all comes with a title or somebody saying that you have some sort of a position that people would look at as authority and then would say, through compliance, I'll do what you say. A lot of us in today's environment are working in matrix environments, which means that we are having to lead other folks, other projects across the organization without that legitimate authority. So if we kind of think about leading as trying to achieve a goal, trying to get to a vision, if you will, we generally can't do that on our own. We need help, right? And so I always talk about it as help, not we need resources or we need people to do their jobs, but we are asking people to help us get to a vision or get to a goal. So managing without authority or leading without authority is all about how do we get that help? How are we more likely to get to that people saying yes to agreement to help us move forward as we would like to? So that's what we're focused on here. In my 15 plus years experience in consulting, doing organizational design, technology design, those sorts of things, what I have learned is this skill set is vitally important. It's vitally important to success in any industry. And really regardless of the ask that you have. So what I mean by that is if you are trying to get to a vision that you may consider a very small vision, maybe you need somebody to help you research something, or you need them to make a decision, all the way to a large ask. Like I need somebody to commit to a year-long project that is outside of their designated position and their designated, annual requirements or performance goals. So, all along that spectrum, these skill sets that we're going to talk about today are going to be helpful for you. So I want you to kind of keep that in mind, that any ask that you have, we can use these tools. So this is one of my favorite topics, and I'm very excited about getting to explore it with you. Our agenda for today, we're going to talk first off about outcomes, just kind of what I hope to be able to share with you. Then we're going to go into looking at how can we get to agreement. We have some options. So what are those options that we have? And we're going to focus on one of those options, which is influence, which is what's going to be our main tool that we use in managing without authority. So then we have I've kind of a toolkit for you. So I think tools are very important. They're not sequential tools necessarily. It's just think of it of having a toolbox. We can pull out the tools that we need in different situations. I've labeled them A, B, C, and D in hopes that that helps you remember them, not because they should be done in that order specifically. So we'll get into those in just a little bit, kind of walk through that. And then at the very end, I'm a pretty practical person. I like to get to, okay, how do we actually do this? How do we put this into action? Where does the rubber meet the road? And so at the very end, we're going to talk about a couple of different tools that you can use to get you started. And then also to start planning for how you're going to work with people. Okay. And then hopefully at the end, I'm planning for us to have a little bit of time for if anybody has some questions or something that they'd like to share, we can absolutely, hopefully have some time for that at the end of the webinar. If you have questions throughout the session here, please go ahead and put them in the chat. Andrew and he has a team of folks here helping him to facilitate that chat. If it's a clarification question, we'll try to get to it right away. If maybe you didn't understand something I said or what have you. If it's something like a scenario or you'd like some, to deeper dive on a piece, then we're going to hold those to the end with the amount of time that we have at the end. Of course, the University of Texas Center for Professional Education has additional resources for you, courses and that sort of thing. If you do want a deeper dive on topics like this one or other communication topics, and we'll have a slide at the end that you can scan and access that information. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Today's outcomes, really, we want to look at 3 vital pieces of managing without authority. And I will keep calling it that, even though we have the leader without authority, because the class I teach is managing without authority. But managing and leadership, both they can be influenced by what we're going to talk about here today. So the first thing that I'm hoping that we get from the webinar is understanding to look at context. So understanding what is the situation, not only that you are in as the person asking for help, but what is the situation that the person is in that you are asking the help from. So looking at the context, looking at clues and adjusting how you ask, how you interact with people, how you exert your influence so that you are more likely to get the help, to secure the help that you need. I've already mentioned that we have some tools, actionable tools that you can use. We'll bring some theory down to let's put this into practice. And then finally, that plan that I mentioned. So we have a couple of things, some questions, and then there's also a little worksheet that I believe will be made available for you after the class. All right, so let's talk about getting to agreement. We really have 3 options to get somebody to help us get where we need to go. One of them is force. We can say, you must do this. It has to happen. The second one is negotiation. Hey, I'll do this for you if you'll do this for me. Can we have a back and forth? Maybe we do some compromise. We give up a few things, but we get to an end that we are both, if not comfortable with, willing to move forward with. And then the third one, which we're going to be focusing on here today, is influence. Influence is all about making an ask, making your environment, your situation attractive and interesting and something that the person that you're asking would want to participate in. Okay, so the difference is here, force, the person doesn't have a choice at all. There is no choice. In negotiation and influence, we do have some choices. Negotiation is more about, there is an element of I need to participate because we're trying to get to an end result. Influence, our focus is really about the other person wanting to help. So we're going to look at tools that help us understand how to tap into that truly an emotional response to your ask, which is a positive emotional response, saying, I would like to be a part of this. So let me dive a little bit deeper into these 3 options that we have. They're all 3 valid options for getting to agreement. And in different situations, you may find yourself needing to use one or the other, or maybe even a blend of them. But we want to make sure that we understand what are the commitments that we have to make to be able to make this particular option work. And also, what are the results? What are the repercussions or consequences, if you will, of using the different options? All right. So I'm just going to kind of talk through these columns just real briefly. So the first one is time. Now, when we say you must do this, and you may have been in a situation like this where your boss said it just has to be done, right? Anybody had that situation before? I'm sure you have. Maybe it's something, your local government has said, this is now the rule. It is. Those are the kinds of things we're talking about with force. And it doesn't take any time at all. The commitment for time is very low because you're being told this will happen. Now, when we go into influence, influence has a variable time commitment because as we'll look when we get into the tools, some things you can do to influence that A, B, C, and D are very quick. They're very easy. They don't take a lot of time. Then there's also building relationships and, doing follow up and really sincerely committing with a person so that you can build enough of a relationship to get to your vision. That's going to take more time. So the time commitment with influence is variable. With negotiation, generally, it's expected that the time commitment will be very high to do the back and forth and so on and so forth. So now contextually, going into a situation, do I have time or do I not have time? If I don't have time, negotiation may not work, right? Or if we must do negotiation, then we know we have to talk about time limits with whomever whomever has asked us to get to the vision that we're trying to get to. The next thing is the lasting commitment. Now, what this means, just to kind of flesh this out, this is the lasting commitment from the person that we have asked. In forced situations, we could have people who are very committed. It's usually when they agree with the decision or agree with the ask. They will be very committed to it. You've told them what to do. It's very straightforward and they are committed. But we also see with people who are maybe less in agreement or less committed that they will, yes, they'll do it at the beginning and then they'll kind of back off or maybe even try to sabotage or go against what you're trying to do because they did feel forced. So if you're looking for a lasting commitment, and an example of lasting commitment would be, I need you to participate in a project for 6 months, and I need you to, be a subject matter expert and willingly give information. I'm asking you for lasting commitment. If I force you into that role and say you must be a part of this project, it's going to be variable if I get the quality, and maybe the urgency from that person that I want. Okay. Now, in a short-term ask, maybe, or in an urgent situation, the lasting commitment isn't necessary. For example, we have a fire. I need everyone out of the building. I'm forcing you to leave without asking you your opinions. When we get outside, you may not like the way I handled it, and you may, be disgruntled, but it's okay because the crisis has been moved past, right? So we got to think about lasting commitment. Do I need it or do I not need it? Next in our column is authority required. So for force, you actually do need some authority. That authority may be given, or you may take it. For example, with my fire example, if everybody's kind of running around and not knowing who's going to take charge, I may be able to, with my presence, assume authority and move people along. But that assumption of authority is probably not going to last me. More lasting authority is if you have a position, a title, someone has asked you, somebody with authority has asked you to take on a role. That's what we're talking about generally with this legitimate authority. So with force, it has to be high. If you don't have the authority, you're going to be working against that. It's going to be harder for you to do. And then finally, we have personal engagement. And what we mean here by personal engagement is how much do you need to interact with the person you're asking to do something? Like, how much do you need to get to know them, develop a relationship, try to create a connection? With force, it's very low. But then it becomes an influence and negotiation. That requirement becomes higher. We bring all of this information to you because it's important as you are trying to move towards your vision. And again, your vision may be, we just need to make a decision on something, or your vision may be, I need to change the way our organization does something, right? It can be any level of vision, but I need to be thinking about what is the commitment, what are the requirements, and then what are the consequences? And the big consequence here is that lasting commitment. All right. So that's kind of our contextual piece of it, and kind of thinking about what our options are. We are going to focus very much on that influence piece moving forward. And so we want to talk about some of the tools that we have, the A, B, C, and D of influence. So we'll start off with ability. Again, you're going to use these in any order. This is your toolkit. It's not necessarily dependent, but it's cute. I'm sorry, I went for it. Ability talks about, yes, your skills, your experience, but really it's about competence. It's about, do people believe, trust that you have this, that you can lead, that you can do this job, that you can make it a somewhat safe, risk-free space for them to participate. And we're going to look into some facets of ability and some traits that you will be wanting to think about as you're leading to increase your ability to lead without authority. Buy-in is really about support. Will people support you? Are they willing to move forward with you? Do they believe in what you are asking them to do? And when we have buy-in, leading is much easier. When people believe in what you're doing, they agree at least to an extent, they can see the value of what you're trying to do, then all of this becomes much easier. The third piece, the C, is connection. Connection is really about relationship. It's really about an emotional investment. Now, you're going to hear me talk some about the difference between emotional and logical. And maybe in my experience and in my research and what I have learned over the years in the North American kind of culture and our environment, we really lean toward logic. We want logic to work for us, especially in the work environment and the professional environment. And we kind of have, at least in the past, this is changing with our newer generations in the workforce, but in the past, we've kind of had a negative connotation toward emotion in the workplace. But what we've learned, what we know is that influence really doesn't work without emotion, without engagement, without some sort of an attachment or connection. It's much more powerful if we can have that. So that's what we're going to talk about with connection in the amount of time we have here today. And then finally, the D is drive. And this is the drive of the person we're asking. Do they care? Are they motivated? Will they want to do this? Again, that word want, that's where we're trying to get, is to they themselves want to do it. I'm not having to convince them anymore. All right. So let's look at the facets of ability. Now, the first two should be no surprise on the top row here, skills and expertise, right? We think about that a lot. What are your capabilities? What are you able to accomplish and do? But when we talk about managing and leading without authority, there are really some other elements to it. And you'll see those listed on this slide. Be understanding the organization, right? Like really knowing how things work so that your plan, your vision fits in and your plan will work. Critical thinking, right? Very important. Flexibility, active listening. And we're going to look at just kind of a little bit of a deep dive on each of these in a definition. So for our skills, our proven relevant abilities, the important term here I really want to emphasize is relevant. I don't know how many times I've seen someone try to influence another or even me by telling me how good they are at something that doesn't matter. To the situation, it matters. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. Let me back off of that, but it's not relevant to our situation and what we're trying to do. And so it's not going to influence me. It's not going to make me allow you to lead me. I want to know how you can handle this situation. In expertise, this is a collection of those skills. So we talked about the proven relevant abilities. So a collection of your abilities, but that are also supported by experience. So when we look at expertise, we're talking about not just can you do it, but have you done it before? Right? There are things I could tell you I can do because I'm pretty sure I can, and I've watched the YouTube video for it, but I haven't actually done it, or maybe I've only done it once. That's not really expertise, potentially skill, but no expertise. So we want to be thinking about that as well. The next one, organization understanding. So what we're talking about is, do you know how your company works? And it may not be the entire company. Maybe you're just working within a team. So we're looking at, do you know how this team works and how it associates with the level above you? And anything, any departments that you may have to interact with for this particular vision, for this ask. So I may not have to know the whole org, but I do need to know here an immediate surrounding. How does this work? Who do I communicate with? What are the processes and procedures? What's the culture? Okay. As we move on to critical thinking, this is, have we thought through our vision? Have we thought through risks? Have we thought through potential other ways to do it, our options and our alternatives before we've landed on this plan? And also, are we able to take in more information, which is going to bring us to flexibility, right? So can we change our ideas? As we bring in new ideas, can we adopt them if they work, if they're great, or are we just fixated on this one thing, one direction we're going to go? We're going to learn, we're going to talk about as we go through the rest of the A, B, C, and D, that people really, many people, not everybody, but many people want a voice. They want to be heard. If you're asking them to volunteer for something, to help with something, they want to be able to put their fingerprints on it. And so being flexible and active listening are going to help you with those different needs. So active listening really boiled down. Obviously, you can take class after class on active listening, but boil it down to, can you hear what other people are saying to you? Can you understand their perspective and their point of view? Now, my ask to you, kind of homework, if you will, would be to think about these 6 different facets. And where are you strong? I'm going to ask you this kind of question throughout. Where are you strong? Where are you like, yes, I have the skills for my vision, but maybe I don't know how my organization works as well, because that's going to be homework for you to go and sort of look at that and beef up that area. Maybe you can be honest and say, I probably don't listen actively enough because I'm so excited about my opportunity. So that might be a space where you can start thinking about, how can you do that better? Now, this active listening brings us into really well into our vital traits, which are going to be next. So to be a leader without authority, there's some things that research studies have kind of agreed on that people respond to in a leader and will respond to positively, and be more likely to follow or to offer your help. And again, I'm going to use that word volunteer, because without authority, I can't force. I can't say it's your job. I have to get you to do it for another reason. So one thing I was reading in a book recently called, I'm going to get the title wrong, I always do, but it's the 7 steps, the 7 somethings to yes. And one of the things they say in there is that people will follow more if they like you. They like likability. And so these are some of those traits that are positive that people respond to well. So what do they mean? Vision. Vision means articulating, being able to see and articulate where you want to go. All right. Now, notice I said not just see it. I got to get it out of my own head, and I've got to get it out here in words that people can respond to, that people can understand. There it is, 7 visual steps to yes. That might be it. I've got it right over here. I can check on it in just a second, but thank you. So we got to think about that. We got to be able to say it. We've got to say, yep, it's up here. It's safe up here in my head. It gets a little vulnerable when we start talking about it and we bring it out for other people to look at it, but that's what we have to do. And that kind of brings us to the confidence, because the confidence is about belief. When we talk about confidence, we say, do you believe in this vision? Do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in it being worthwhile to move this vision forward? All of that is confidence. Confidence isn't swagger or, being right all the time. It's about belief in this is a good thing for us to be doing, a positive thing for us to be doing. Empathy, I'm sure we've all heard about before, being able to put yourself in other people's shoes, being able to see their perspective, being able to understand. I'm going to add to that. I'm going to add and being able to adjust based on that seeing, based on that empathy. So it's one thing to say, I understand you're going through a hard thing, or you have too much work on your plate and you can't help me now. It's a much bigger thing, empathetic thing to say, you have a lot on your plate. Is there a way that I can help you so that you can help me? Is there a way that I can change my ask so that you can participate? Is there a way that we can adjust this work so we still, you want to help, but you can't? I can be empathetic and make some changes on my end. Again, we're back to flexibility. Trust is really built on being consistent, right? And doing what you say you will do. So when your words and your actions, those things are all matching up, then people can trust you. And then there's this idea of being consistent, that the brand that you present to people, who you are is who you are. And if they see you in a different situation, they're not going to be shocked, because you're an inconsistent brand, right? Trust also has to do with trusting others. And this is big. This is huge. This goes to don't micromanage. If I need to boil it down into a phrase to put on a t-shirt, that's it. Do not micromanage. So people will follow you more if they understand the vision, right? We're not throwing them out to say, you figure it out, but then I trust you to get this work done. I don't have to, check every single bit. I trust your skills. I trust what you're doing. I also trust you to come to me when you need to, right? And then finally, we get to humility. Now we talk about humility, and we often hear, knowing that I can make mistakes, sharing the praise, making sure that I'm not putting myself first. Absolutely, all of that is part of our humility. But we also have in humility allowing for recovery, understanding that things can go wrong, and they probably will go wrong. Being able to own that, and then to adjust and move forward, right? The confidence to move forward. So back to homework. Sorry, guys. I have some questions for you to take away on these traits, because it's very easy to say, yes, I have that, or no, I don't. But we really want to explore to what extent and where can you grow as a leader. So the first question is, how do you exhibit these traits? So thinking about a vision that you have, thinking about somewhere where you're trying to go and you're leading others, right? Are you exhibiting these traits, and how are you doing it? Like, what are your actions? What are the words you use? How do you carry yourself? What does your work look like that might indicate these different traits? The second question is, who have you shown these traits to? Who's had the opportunity to see you be confident? Who has had the opportunity to see you be empathetic? And are those folks represented at all levels of the people you need to get where you're going? So you may need some people at the very top levels, and it may be very easy to show vision to them. You may also need people at your peer level, and you may need people that you're delegating to that maybe are below your level. Are they seeing vision, or are you saving all of that for the top? Right? Are you saving all of your empathy for maybe your peers or the level you're delegating to? Can we extend empathy upward as well? So kind of who has had the opportunity to see this? And then here comes the tough one. How would they rate you? Like, would they rate you strong? Would they rate you sort of okay? Or would they rate you maybe weak on this? This is subjective, obviously. With the right people, there are some people that you probably have in your life that you can go ask. Am I clear in my vision? I really need to know, and I need you to not tell me something you think I want to hear. Am I trustworthy? There are probably some folks you can talk to about that. Others, you're going to have to think about, How would they rate me? One clue that we have into this is how they treat you, how they react to you, how they interact with you. Yes, a 360 feedback could help with this. Absolutely. There's a whole other, investigation you can do into that topic that can help you assess that and ask people for that kind of feedback. But we can also just look at how they are treating us. If someone is, we're trying to get them moving forward and they're maybe getting distracted or ignoring us, maybe they're not coming to the meetings, maybe they're looking on their phone while we're trying to move things forward, perhaps my vision isn't clear, right? Or perhaps I haven't been empathetic to the busyness of their schedule. So before we jump to there's something wrong with them, which that jumping, there's a name for it. It's called situational invisibility. And with situational invisibility, we assume that when we see behavior we don't like, there's something wrong with that other person, where it could be something wrong here with me or something in the contextual environment that is causing the issue. So before we jump to this person is rude, let's think about perhaps I'm not making a compelling argument. Okay. All right. So that's a bit of your homework right there. I'm going to pause if you want to get a screenshot of that one. Maybe you don't. And I'm going to move now. We've kind of been talking a little bit about ability and the vital traits with ability. Now we're going to look a little bit into that buy-in. Okay, so I'm going to move to B, and we've got a couple of things we're going to look at with buy-in. And the first one we want to look at is exploring this is a motivational theory called expectancy theory, and it was originally professed or brought about by a man named Victor Vroom, if you're interested in those sorts of things, basically saying that people will be invested if we can put some things in place. They expect certain things from work, and they will be more motivated. They will be more bought in, more interested in helping you get to where you need to be if these three pieces are in place. And they're here on the slide: value, success, and reward. And just to describe them, value says that this work is important. There is something about it that has value. And so you, as the person asking for help, should be able to articulate that. The second one is success. I can be successful if I do this work. So we have a plan, a methodology. We've thought about risk. We've considered things so that we can be successful. This kind of goes back to your ability. So even though we're in B, buy-in, we're looking at A, have you thought through a plan, right? Are you capable? So we're looking, can we be successful? And then the final piece is a reward. Now, a reward could be a tangible reward. When we complete this project, we're all going to get a bonus. I mean, that's a nice, easy one. But rewards can also be other things, and we'll look into a bunch of them a little bit later in this webinar. But being creative with what the reward is, a reward can be thank you. A reward can be, we appreciate your hard work. We see you. A note to somebody's supervisor that says they did a really great job. That's reward. It doesn't have to be something big or even monetary or that tangible. All right. Now, this motivation theory can work absolutely against you if you don't put these things in place. If you do not talk about value, success, or reward, you're basically leaving it up to the person that you're trying to engage to recognize that themselves. And you probably have less than a 50-50 chance that will happen. They're going to need to care to get there. Be careful of the way you speak about what you're asking, the work, the project, whatever it is you're asking, because it can be very easy to do the opposite. If you say something like, I don't know why we're having to do this project, but you just took value away. If you say something like, we have an impossible schedule, you just took success away. And if you say something along the lines of nobody cares, or our bosses aren't even paying attention, you've just taken reward away. So it's very easy to do, very easy to do. We want to be conscientious of buy-in. All right, let's move on to the next piece in buy-in, which this is actually a bridge to connection as well. So we're kind of moving from B and getting into C. We want to purposefully establish value. Now, you already know the value to you, right? You want to get to your vision and you know this is going to be a feather in your cap with your boss, or it's going to make your life easier, or whatever it is, you know. What we want to do now is show the person we're asking why it's valuable to them. I will tell you right now, unless they are the most altruistic person in the world, they probably don't care that much about why it's valuable to you. They want to know why it's valuable to them. So here are some guidelines. First and foremost, be curious, ask them questions, try to understand what they are in it for. I always remember this kind of pithy thing. It's the world famous radio station, WIIFM, which is what's in it for me. And people are very much interested in that. It helps them buy in. So listen and think, and how is this going for you? Do you have thoughts on this? Do you experience this process that I'm trying to, fix? What are your experiences with this process? Understand where the value might lie for them. Make room in your vision, back to flexibility, so that I don't want your vision going all over the place, and I don't want it to become a Frankenstein's monster of all of these pieces that you're trying to force into a solution so everyone's happy. But I do want you to be expansive in your thought to say, okay, I had an idea and I see it crystal clear, but is there room for, and I don't know why this popped into my head, but Bob Ross just popped into my head. And I'm thinking, I see that charming cabin, right, with the majestic mountains. Is there room for the happy little trees? Now, those of you who don't know Bob Ross, that was a very confusing statement, and I apologize, but go look it up and it'll make sense. But is there room? Is there room for a little bit? And it makes the picture more robust. It makes the picture more complete. Okay. The next one, just focusing on problems with them, that's the same thing as value, really. And those first three, the commonality there is that we've turned the perspective from us to them. So important. So important. The final piece, offer a tangible reason why. Why would I want to help you? Now, this is different than the vision. It might be a benefit, right? But this is a real, just like something to help people make a choice. I'm going to give you some examples that are non-tangible. All right. So a non-tangible reason, the world will be better if we do this. It's the right thing to do. That's non-tangible. That's not what we're looking for here. It may be the right thing to do. The world may be a better place, but what I need right now is something specific, something explicit that I can hold on to. So an example might be, we will sign more agreements, more SOWs, more agreements, which will lead to greater profitability, which will lead to more bonuses. That is a tangible reason why. It might be something like, your name will be on this project, which will go to our boss who is very interested in this project, and therefore you will have more visibility to our boss. Tangible, right? Now that tangible reason has to be important to the person. By asking all these questions and kind of trying to understand what the other person would want and making room for them in your vision, you not only are attributing to buy-in, you are also starting to build that connection, that relationship, that emotional bond. So we get a twofer here, which is fabulous. We love that. Other ways to create connection, I've got three. First two are here, searching for commonality. Back to that point of people like to follow people that are likable, that they can have an attachment to, that they consider a friend. Commonality helps us with that. Commonality may be related to the vision. We both have the same issue. We both have the same pain points. We both have the same desires for improvement. But it may also be very different. It may be that we both have dogs, or we both love to hike. So ask questions. How are you? What did you do this weekend? And listen, active listening. Don't just say those things to be I started a conversation. Say them to learn, and then use what you've learned to create a connection, which will help you influence. All right. Then the second point here, I'm not going to say this word because I always mess it up. Offer reciprocity. I did it. I did it. Very proud of myself right there. So what is the quid pro quo that I can do here? And again, be creative, right? There's some listed here. Can I give you, thank you, Leo, information? Can I help you with something? Can I make sure your boss knows what you're doing? And this last one I think is so important, and we forget it: enjoyment, fun. If our work environment, if I have created a work environment that's fun, that people are interested in, it's engaging, it's challenging, whatever it is, I'm meeting new people. That's a big thing, especially if you're still working very remotely, where we have a lot of isolation. If you can provide that, that's a huge give back for people to offer their help. So no, you're not the only one. Susie Ann, that's a rough one. The third one, I wanted to give it its own slide and really highlight it in not underestimating the power of hope. Okay. Now, what I'm talking about with hope, I'm going to just bring it on down into what does that mean? It means the chance to change for the better. Hope means that there could be something better for me, something good, something out there. So we want to offer that. We want to offer hope. It's very influential. I can't guarantee that these things will happen, but that's our goal, right? So our goal, maybe there's a reward, a specific reward. Maybe that reward comes from work, or maybe that reward comes from you. I'm going to send you I don't know, pack of M&Ms or a thank you card or whatever it is. That's still reward. Recognition. I see you. I see who you are. Maybe other people see you. That helps us. That's something that is an advantage, a positive. Removal of a pain point. Maybe there's just success. I'm a person who appreciates achievement. Maybe it gives me time, whatever it is, but we can make your situation better. That's the power of hope. And so we want to be thinking about that when we offer connection and we offer what you get back. Because I'm not going to push my luck and try the word a second time. What you can get back from helping me out. So that idea of achievement here with success brings us to kind of our next piece. And this is, we're moving into D, we're moving into the drive. So drive is all about motivation. It's all about getting people to want to participate. And so we want to play to their strengths. Now, this slide is really playing to another motivation theory. This one is called, I've got to read it, McClelland's Achievement Motivation Theory, or the other name for it is much easier, the 3-need theory. And the idea there is that most people will feel an affinity for one of these 3 things. One of these 3 things makes them motivated. Usually we are motivated by more than one, but I feel more for one. I feel it stronger, more strongly, right? So the 3 needs are achievement, autonomy, or authority, it's also been called, and acceptance or affiliation. And the idea with achievement, people who are achievement oriented, is that they like to get stuff done, right? They've got the to-do list, they're checking things off of the to-do list. At the end of the day, they get to cross through the whole thing. It's very, very appealing to them. They want to complete. If I can recognize that in a person, if I'm aware enough, I listen to them actively, I watch them, I see what they value, what they care about, and I see that they like to say, hey, I got that done. That's finished. Did you see that that's completed? Or I'm working on my to-do list, or I've blocked off time because I got to get this done. They may be achievement oriented, and you can present your vision and your asks in a way that will appeal to them, will appeal to that strength by breaking it down into doable tasks and celebrating milestones and talking about the end from the very beginning. Those things will really appeal to the achievement-oriented person. Now, autonomy or authority, these folks like to have a voice. They like to have a say so. They definitely want to control their own work. They want to have personal control over their own work. So this group would be more like, hey, I have this vision. Here's what I need from you. It needs to look like this at the end of the day. Do whatever you need to do to get there. Maybe they're guardrails. Maybe we have, some rules and regulations around it. But as long as you're working within those guardrails and you get to the end, it's all yours, right? Do it the way you want to do it. They may want to be even more than that and have influence over others. So they may want to lead, have a piece of the work that they're in charge of and lead others. But you see, I'm talking about the vision and I'm presenting the requests in a way that would work with their strengths and would help keep them motivated. The acceptance or affiliation group at the very end here, these are the folks that like to work together. They want to be part of a team. They want to be in a group. So my very worst thing I could do for them is to send them off on their own to work. Those are the ones that I want to talk about, how we are helping the group and how they're going to work with a team, right, within a team. Again, presenting that work so that it appeals, plays to their strengths. All right, how am I doing on time? Okay, I've just got a couple more slides. I want to get to that plan. So we've gone through the A, B, C, and D. We just worked with Drive. So let's get started. First things we have to do is I have to know what I need, right? What I'm asking for. And when I teach the Managing Without Authority class, I very often will talk about going to a Subway sandwich shop. One, because I love Subway sandwiches, and two, because it's a really good example for a small ask. A small ask is asking the sandwich artiste to make my sandwich in the way that I really want it. They don't have to, right? And so I want to be thinking ahead of time, even for that small ask, what is my goal? A delicious sandwich. Why is it important to me? But why is it important to this artiste to make my sandwich well? Right? Maybe it's because I've made a connection with them and they are wanting to do something nice for me back, right? We're kind of having an emotional connection. Maybe it's because I saw their manager walk across the back and I'm going to mention, hey, I just saw your manager go across the back and I want to tell them what a great job you're doing, right? But I'm thinking about how does my sandwich become important to them? And then what needs to be done? I need to be clear. I don't need to go in and say, make me the sandwich that I want and have them guess. I want to go in there and tell them this is the exact sandwich I want, which generally involves a whole bunch of pickles because it does. But what I'm trying to say here, I truly am not getting off track, is that for small asks, you run through these questions quickly. For larger asks, I got to think through, okay, what is my future state? This is a big project. What does it look like at the end? What does it look like at the end of each phase of the project? Then why is this project important? What do I need? Who are the people that I need to get that from? It's the same process regardless. Once I have this piece, my second piece is the people plan. All right. And this is a table that we have for you to be sent out afterward with a link to the recording, or it may not be together, but in that general same time zone or time zone is fine. This is for you. Once you've identified someone that you need to ask something of, to put everything we just talked about together, right? So on the very left-hand side, those are your ABCs, A, B, C, and D. Okay, so kind of what we're really focused on, and you can see it gets mixed. You're achieving multiple things sometimes. We start with an introduction, right? This is my vision. This is where we're trying to go. Then we establish value, organizational value, personal value. Why? What is my compelling reason, my tangible reason why you would want to do this? I want to create a partnership with them. All right, so I want to talk about what needs to be done, play on their strengths. We just talked about that. Ask questions. How can I expand the vision? What else needs to happen? And then what is the quid pro quo? What can I offer you back? Then we get to the offering of the hope. What's in it for me? What are the things that could change, right? Allowing for the space. What's your preference on how to do this work? The timing, maybe discuss any issues. I guarantee you, if you are willing to discuss the issues, the risks, acknowledging that your vision isn't perfect, that there might be stumbling blocks. People will really appreciate that. And then the last two are action items. Get your commitment. Can you do this? When can you do this? How much can you commit? And then what are the next steps? Always follow up with next steps, because otherwise it's just going to be out there. Next steps, I'm going to touch base with you next week. I'm going to send you this, and then you're going to send it back to me within a couple of days. Right. All right. So that is what I have for you guys. Here are a last couple of slides. So Andrew's contact information. So if you have interest in a course, more information, what have you, something that maybe you missed from this course, you can reach out to him. Quick screenshot, but this will also be in the recording that you'll get. I think they said 24 to 48 hours. And then finally, here's a QR code for more webinars that are coming up. And that gives me 9 minutes for questions and answers. Andrew, do you have some questions for me?
I do. I have one that I flagged from earlier in the chat. I'm going to post it. Actually, I'm just going to read it out loud for you here.
Thank you. And thank you,
Earlier-
everybody. If you need to drop, I totally understand. And thank you for your time.
Earlier, we had one that slipped by. It says, is there a version of the 360 feedback template that can help us assess these traits?
Andrew, I don't know if CPE does a 360, if you have some 360 resources. I don't have a specific template that I use. I think, I mean, there's a lot of companies that say we do the 360, the one and only 360 that you should do, but 360 really just means getting input from all around you, right? So if you wanted to take those questions I posed and identify, you know, someone, a leader, someone above you, and some peers and some people that maybe report to you or you delegate to, and ask those questions of them, you would be doing 360.
A lot of them are coming in all at once. Cover what time allows. Let's see here. Do you have any suggestions on best practices to work with someone who tends to focus on the detail rather than the bigger picture? It can be challenging to share vision sometimes.
I guess my question back to that would be, do we need them to commit to the vision, or are they committing at the detail level? Because if somebody is willing to commit at the detail level and say, yep, I'll do this for you, then your job is done. Sweet. And there are people like that. They just want to get the, you know, here, give me the work. They're probably achievement oriented. If they are questioning it and saying, I don't want to do that because I don't know why it's important, it may help you to take one step up. So instead of trying to go to the very end, right, to the full future, maybe take just a baby step of here's what I'm trying to accomplish and make it super meaningful to them. Detail oriented, not detail oriented. I don't mean to say that, but people who want to focus on these are the tasks that I need to accomplish, may be very much at that moment in time focused on their own space. And so getting too far away from that space just may not be meaningful. So maybe we talk about their, you know, how this is affecting their boss, the vision in their realm. I'm not really saying that very well, but I'm basically trying to say, keep it close to them.
Excellent, excellent. And finally, you mentioned a book earlier, 7 Steps to Yes.
I'm going to disappear. Hold on, I got it right here. It's the 7 triggers to yes. Can I show it, Andrew? Is it okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Can you see that? I can't see myself, so. It's called The 7 Triggers to Yes, the New Science Behind Influencing People's Decisions by Russell H. Granger. 7 Triggers to Yes.
Excellent.
And it really makes that point about logic isn't enough. It's about emotional connection.
And we have another question here.
Mhm.
Any other advice when it comes to managing people you used to work in the same position as before? I feel like understanding the challenges they face, but how do you all stay motivated as the dynamic changes?
Okay, so if I understand that, the person who's posed the question is now the boss of a group of people they used to be a part of. Is that right?
That's what I'm gaining from that.
Okay. And there's issues here. So what I would do, I mean, honestly, what I would do is really try to reach out to that group as a team member, leading them for sure, but relying less on what we call legitimate authority, which is your new title, right? And relying more on the relationships you have from being on that team and understanding their pain points and understanding their vision and coming in and saying, hey, maybe saying as you don't have to say as the leader, but here's where I'd like our team to go. I've been here with you guys. This is what I'm taking from that, from my perspective. Can you also add to this vision? Because, we've all been here together. And I'd like for us to all work together as a team to get us here and focus more on you as the leader, as the person who can get things out of the way, remove roadblocks, get us resources, as opposed to the person telling them what to do or delegating. And the more you can get their fingerprints on that vision, the more they're going to be likely to be committed to it.
Excellent. We have another question here.
Okay.
Do you have any tips on how to stand out as a leader to your leaders in upper management?
Solve their problems. Figure out what is the pain point, maybe for many of them, or maybe for one that's influential, and come up with a vision to solve that problem. Do research, ask questions, come up with something that would work. And I'm not talking about the problems of the organization that they're trying to solve, but if they have, if there's a, I'm going to come up with some stupid stuff here, but if they have a report that they need, the information data that they need on a regular basis, and it's slow coming to them and it's causing them angst, figure out a way to get that data to them faster. And do that with a team, and do it with a team that you pull together without asking for resources, because as soon as you ask for resources, you're giving them another problem they have to solve. So I would say find a problem that you can solve, and that will seriously make you stand out.
And the next question we have is, if I'm seeking agreement from my supervisors, would the A, B, C, and D work in that situation?
100%. 100%. With supervisors, you may have to look at it. Definitely, they're going to respond to ability, right? They're going to want to know that you're competent, that you're there. Buy-in is absolutely important. Buy-in is, what do they need? So it just changes perspective, right? So we're looking at the perspective of a supervisor versus the perspective of, say, a peer or someone that maybe we're delegating to or what have you. Connection maybe slightly different with a supervisor, because it may be, we're not buds, but we definitely have some things that we share, right? We're common issues we're trying to solve, what have you. And then we definitely want them motivated. Usually our supervisors are going to be motivated by us, with us, again, solving their, problems, us taking something off their plate.
And on that subject of buy-in, in terms of you trying to get buy-in from people at your place of work, what if they say they don't know why it's important when you give them the vision and they downplay that? So you essentially never get buy-in. Do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, it sounds to me like, in my experience, and I don't know these folks, but in my experience, when people are like, that's not valuable, or I don't care, couple of things could be happening. One, they could have been around the block a couple of times and they've seen efforts, and those efforts haven't come to fruition. They haven't been executed, and they're tired, right? They have kind of an initiative exhaustion. It might also be that they haven't, for whatever reason, they haven't internalized either a high level vision or your vision. So it doesn't make sense to them with the perspective that they have. They don't see the value. So in the first case, your credibility is what you're going to want to rely on. because you're going to want to be able to show them why you're different. And you're going to have to develop trust, and that may take time, right? Again, these things take time, and it's not going to be, whoo, you trust me, but just take some letting them know you have a plan, that you're going to get there, that this time it is different. If it's the people who haven't internalized the vision, then we need to say it a different way. I mean, that's again back on you. How do I say this in a way that makes sense to them, that's important to them? It may be that I see it and my supervisors see it, but they don't see it. So what's going on in their world, their professional world, that this vision could affect and affect in a positive way? What hope can I offer them with what I'm doing?
And Lindsay, finally, in light of the remote working that so many of us are doing these days, we have the next question. That is, what if we don't know the supervisor's problems or needs because of either them working remotely and not communicating those?
Mhm.
How would we get that information and ultimately get buy-in?
So there's some of that is kind of goes to the emotional intelligence. And I know there's some really good courses that UT provides, that the CPE group provides, in emotional intelligence of an awareness of being able to pick up on, it's being aware of what's getting put down in meetings. So now that we're remote, it's all pretty much in meetings, right? We don't see people in the hallways. We don't see them through the
Mhm.
windows of their office. But, do we hear the same topics coming up? Do we see there's, a late, the boss is always coming in late, and why is that? Because this other meeting went over, just kind of trying to look for clues. You can do that. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, there's some risk to that, because you could make a wrong assumption for sure, but it might put you in the right direction to ask some questions. So I might ask, hey, I want, is there something that I can help with? What is your biggest pain point right now? I'd like to puzzle on it. I'd like to think about it. Now, there are other ways to be distinguished as a leader besides solving the problems of your supervisor. That was just the first, that's a big one. That's a huge one. But if you don't know and you're separated too much to really know what those problems are, there are other ways that you can distinguish yourself on a project. You've been given, and I don't even mean like it's a formal project, but you've been given something to do that has a beginning and an end. um, Doing that very well and making sure, not bragging. I don't want, nobody likes that. Nobody wants you to be like, look at everything I'm doing. But being able to, at the status meetings, not downplaying, but saying, yeah, we had these challenges and this is how I faced them. And I'm looking forward to being able to expand those skill sets more, and just kind of showing yourself as somebody who can take on challenges, even though it's not maybe the supervisor's problem itself. I
Lindsay,
don't think there's a certificate for this webinar. That question's come up. I've seen that a couple of times. Is that true, Andrew?
that is correct. This is a seminar for information and informational purposes. However, if you are interested in one of the many certificate programs that we offer here at the Center for Professional Education, please feel free to reach out to me. At this point in time, you've already received a number of emails from me, so I very much look forward to working with all of you. Lindsay, thank you again so much for your time. If we don't have any other questions, or if you don't have any additional pieces of information, Lindsay, I think we're good.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, everybody.